Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here. I have an alarm going off. What the hell's going on here? Why do I have an alarm going off? All right, well, fix that. Sorry, everybody. It is 8:31 a.m. EST. We're here to take a look at the charts. Algo Factory .tech, here to learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro and find out what's going on with these markets. They're just insane, which is great. We love insane. We make money on insane, and that is the beautiful part. So we're looking here at the NASDAQ. The yellow line was my prediction starting on Tuesday. I made this prediction on Tuesday. It didn't quite make its way down here, but it certainly made its way up to this mark that I called out here, more or less. And then it really was very precise after that and made its way down. I believe I may have adjusted this a little bit yesterday, but certainly predicted this move down from there, right? So this does appear that price will continue down. If I go ahead and zoom out here, you can see things are getting very rather bearish. And so what I expect with the NASDAQ is just more down. We have the panic lows right here that happened in June and again in July, just last Friday. Excuse me. And so price looks like it's going to head down and retest those maybe today, maybe tomorrow. And then what? You know, this we talked about it already. I've already talked about what I think is going to happen here, but I'll just redraw it just so you guys can see it. What I expect is for the next few months, and I could be wrong about this, by the way, because the NASDAQ's really tricky. The NASDAQ is really dependent on what powerful people want it to do until they lose the ability to do what they want to do to it. So what I mean by that is, okay, so the NASDAQ can be held up. However, it cannot be held up indefinitely. After a while, it starts to cost too much money. It starts to be less cost effective to keep pushing the price up on the NASDAQ like they did here earlier in the year, and they have to let it fall. And so I think what's going to happen is a move down to about 2,700, which is really the October highs. Let me just take a quick look here at our other chart, and I think I've already drawn this out. Yeah, here it is. So something like this, right? And if I were to kind of extrapolate this, it might look here. Look at that. That's also the look that I drew yesterday on this chart here too. Pretty accurate in that it does seem to want to go down. You know, we'll see if it does, but if I had to redraw this, I'd say something like this. I'll make this a little more visible. Maybe like this. Eventually a breakdown. And just to grind down. Now, how low will it go, of course, is always the question. And there's the October high, this blue line right here, where it touched in the 29th of October. It retested in January. And I think price is possibly going to go back down to that level. And it will do so kind of slowly over the next like 3 or 4 months, up until maybe October, something like this. You know, I know we might get some pop-ups here and there, but I think we'll just get kind of a slow grind down. Now, I could be totally wrong about that. In September, it just rockets up, and you know, I'm not really worried about that per se because I'm a trader, so I care about what's going to happen in 20 minutes more than I care about what's going to happen in like 2 or 3 days, right? But to get a general bias of what's going on is not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. So whatever major thing is going to happen to the market, it's probably going to happen in October, maybe November, right? Midterm elections, things like that. I know people don't think elections matter. I'll say it to you this way. I think that they don't always matter in the way that people think they matter. I will say that I think elections do get to kind of determine which faction of the uniparty get to control matters at home and, quite frankly, make money on them. Like, so, you know, yes, we have Democrats and Republicans in the U.S., and yes, they are pretty much aligned with a lot of stuff. You have You know, for example, Israel owns like, you know, 90% or more of the Republicans and maybe 60 some odd percent of their Democrats. And I mean, you know, there's a lot of where these aren't really two different sides altogether. They're like one big side, but within those sides, there are factions, and therefore who gets to be in the seat of power does seem to matter. And if you don't think elections matter, well, just look at the madness that happens around those elections, and you know, voter ID and everything else. I mean, if it didn't matter, then they probably wouldn't be making a big stink about it. So, in a way, it matters. And I think that with the election happening in November, we have to understand that that's probably where we'll see a lot of action just before or thereabouts. And if the current administration wants their people in, then what they'll do is everything they can to push the price back up at that time. Hey, look, we're markets at all-time highs, guys. Like, they'll paint some kind of low and then they'll paint a high. It's possible. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I will say, if I go back to the first chart here, is that these particular predictions are pretty usable, and that price appears to be heading down to retest those lows probably today or tomorrow. Whether or not it breaks those lows, we'll see. That's what's hard to tell. We can use a fib extension to see how low it might go in the near term if it breaks down. So if it breaks down, you got a couple levels where price could want to go, and that's going to be maybe 28,050 and 27,570, right about there. The price may want to get to those levels eventually, but you know, now the screen's getting cluttered and starting to look kind of messy, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all that. But those are the two levels. Let's do it this way. I will get rid of the fib. And there you go. Those are the levels we can expect. All right, so that's probably what we're going to see. Something like that. We'll see about it. It's either going to bounce at that basically 28,400, or it may head down or bounce up. I doubt it's going to bounce up. Everything's looking pretty bearish. I'll just leave the lower, you know, the more bearish option on the table there. So that's what I expect. Bitcoin itself, well, gosh, I guess I did a decent job predicting this, but it didn't. It's following the like, hey, it's going to continue down route rather than, I mean, there's still room for it to bounce up. So, you know, this was the original prediction back here from last week. A week ago, I did this dotted line. Pretty darn accurate, I got to say. I'm going to erase that now. That's awesome. Now, I also predicted it would head down here yesterday. Pretty darn accurate, right? And is it going to bounce here and retest 67,360? Or is it going to start to head down here and you know, retest the lows, which are about 61,000, 60,000. We'll see what happens with that. Let me take just a brief look at the metrics. It does look rather bearish still, at least on the 3 hour and the daily. It may be that it's able to hold. It just depends on how bearish the whole picture is. We're really kind of at a very key point where this could bounce or not. You know, it's a question of, in my opinion right now, it's a question of will 60,000 hold. I think 60,000 is the main test right now. And if we see this move down in that way, then we're probably looking at a pretty significant bearish sort of move right there, right? So bear that in mind. Let's take a look. Actually, you know what? We're pretty much here at the end of the live lab. Remember, on these live labs, even though you're not an Algo Factory member, this is free to the public for roughly 10, 15 minutes a day. You guys can come in here and ask questions. So like, let's just say you have a favorite stock or crypto. I don't like to predict where the newer cryptos go, something that was made like, you know, in the last week or last month, some new meme coin or something. I don't really mess with those just because there's not enough data for me to understand how to predict the model. And on top of that, they're generally just trash. I'm not really interested in such things. So I like, Bitcoin or Ethereum or even some of the older cryptos that have been around for at least a few years. I can sort of predict where those are going to go. But something that got invented a month or two ago, it's just there's just not enough data. Even if I cared to take a look at it, I mean, it could. But long story short, you can make requests. Your favorite stock. What do you think is going to happen to oil? We talk about all this stuff in the private live lab, which is where we're going right now. Going to the private live lab, our private members can ask more in-depth questions. I go over gold, silver, forex pairs, oil, whatever commodity people want to see. I go over all that stuff in there, maybe some specific cryptos if that's what people want to see. We do all that. We teach people how to build trading algorithms. We teach people how to predict where price is going to go, when it's going to get there, and how to extract money from those movements. And if you want to learn how to do that, come to algofactory.tech and get the free algo in the description. Very quick video. I build an algo before your very eyes. I show you how traders connect it to, at least I show you the tools they use to connect it to their broker. And you do have to optimize the algo before you use it, but it is in there and it's free. So please go ahead, get in there and check that out. Look forward to seeing you. Don't forget.
Join us or die.
Just kidding. You're not going to die. We love you.